Now we get underway with the 4th out of 6 heats for Minimax. Up next, it's Heat 4, Groups B versus D. Let's have a look at your starting grid. Joshua Griffin will start from pole position in the 183, and alongside him will be the 143 of Edward Haynes. Denny Babachek and Tom Reed will line up on row number 2, ahead of Cian Bernard and Oliver Meek, with Isaac Barker, Oliver Warner, Albie Lapper and Riley Morrow rounding out the top 10. Ryan Gandor, Miko Schwiers, Sebastian Lersch, Christian Sejersen and Isabella Sandsmore-Wilson rounds out the 15-strong grid. We'll be competing over the next 7 minutes plus an additional lap. After this, the drivers will have a little bit of a respite before their final 2 races of heat stay here at Paul Fletcher International. And the sun has been not only plentiful, but also scorching at the same time. The drivers now make their way onto their official formation lap ahead of 7 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. Drivers now briefly being told to slow down. This looks to be a lot quicker of a formation than I've seen in a very, very long time. They need to be in formation. They need to slow down as they come out of the final corner. Into the tram lines we go. Revs rise and they are out straight away. And they make their way through into the Bruno Ferrari S's. And Joshua Griffin made good his intentions to try and lead the field going through the Bruno Ferrari S's over the Litchfield Bridge for the first time. Now down the hill. Oh, couple of carts running a little bit wide. One of which might have been Isaac Barker, I believe, in the number 153. Oh, and we've had a little bit of a touch and a turnaround into the first of the hairpins. As at the moment, the 182 of Cian Bernard now has the race lead, but the driver off of the first hairpin is trying to get the kart started. That's not going to happen, I'm afraid. And does get going once again. That is, oh dearie me, that was Joshua Griffin, our pole sitter. Got turned around. There was a little bit of a touch. The slightest touch on the rear of a kart. In Rotax racing circles, you can be spun around rather quickly. As now Cian Bernard and Edward Haynes go into battle. Riley Morrow, I think, might have had Tom Reed alongside him going up the hill as they make their way through over the Litchfield Bridge. Nearly a little bit of a coming to the slightest nudge of between Cian Bernard and Ed Haynes as they make their way down the dip into the first hairpin. Careful on the brakes. And Joshua Griffin is quite a considerable, he's over 21 seconds back from Christian Sejersen from Denmark, who is rounding out the 14, not including Griffin. But Bernard and Haynes at the sharp end of the field make their way through the Fullerton S's. Into Bobby Game Corner once again they go. Now into the Mike Wilson complex once more. Line astern, bit like Denham and Ashcroft in the previous race that we just saw a few moments ago. Out of the final turn, just under 5 minutes to go. Bernard still leads and it's 45 thousandths of a second. That's probably not even the distance over covering a front bumper and a front Nassau panel at full racing speed across the line. Tom Reed, in the meantime, did get past Riley Morrow for 3rd position and has bolted away. Riley Morrow has got the likes of Oliver Warner looking up his inside. Warner got through at the first hairpin. But then Morrow fights back, looks to the outside into hairpin number 2. 2 by 2, hurrah, they go. There's Ryan Gandor battling away with Oliver Meek from Synergy in the 167. The Synergy Honda factory team run by a former Kart Masters winner himself, one of a couple who are actually here. Mike Spencer, the other one, Jordan Baines, you get a shout out for that because you're also now spannering quite a few karts this weekend. So Bernard still leads the way. Gap between him and Haynes now is nearly 0.3 of a second, but Tom Reed has really got a wind. He's got the wind underneath his side pod, so to speak. As now Oliver Meek tries to close in on Riley Morrow once again. This is going to be quite crucial for the positioning for the ranking after the heats. All of our drivers here in Minimax. Now Tom Reed looks up the inside briefly, showed his nose to Edward Haynes for second position, but thought better of it. Discretion being the better part of valor. There's still 3 minutes and 20 seconds still to go, and Joshua Griffin has just been given a 5-second time penalty, as displayed on the digi flag on the start-finish straight. So whether that might be for causing an avoidable collision, I am just awaiting confirmation of that at the minute. Oh, Tom Reed again, sticking his nose up towards the right-hand side of Edward Haynes as they go across the start-finish line into the Bruno Ferrari S's, then Uncle Tyrone's banking. But Bernard still holding on for that lead. Better run coming out of turn 4 by Tom Reed on Edward Haynes. Cian Bernard still holds on to the lead. Is Reed going to set it up the inside for second? Yes, and makes the move stick through the opening hairpin. Tom Reed with a dive bomb up the inside, made it work and got through. And oh no! Cuts across the side of Edward Haynes, and Haynes is around and on the grass, pointing in the other direction on the start-finish straight. He manages to get back going again. So that just goes to show one problem can occur. And if you are close within proximity and you have something like that happen to you, it catapults your race upside down, like we saw previously with Ellis Bell in the last race, going through the banking up the hill. Cian Bernard at the moment now has a lead of over 8.5 of a second in front of Tom Reed. Oliver Warner now third. Denny Babacek fourth. Fifth, it's Albie Lapper, who started down in ninth. Isaac Barker, Sebastian Lersch, Ryan Gandor. Good work by Isabella Stansmore-Wilson. Up 7 positions to ninth from last on the grid. Miko Schwiers now in 10th position. And Joshua Griffin is still making his way around the circuit. Edward Haynes has dropped down to 14th place as we're into the final minute of this 4th race out of 6 in terms of the heats for the Minimax drivers. And Cian Bernard, 1 minute 1.358 on that lap. He now extends his lead over Tom Reed to just nigh on a second. Joshua Griffin has parked the car to the pit lane in the Birrell ART. That's a real shame for the youngster. Christian Sayerson and Oliver Meek now move up into 9th and 10th as Isabella Stansmore-Wilson drops to 12th position. So timer is going to expire this time. We're on lap number 7. Last lap board is being prepped. So when Cian Bernard comes out of the final corner, he'll be the first one to see it. So out of the Mike Wilson complex through the final left-hander, right-hander onto the start-finish straight. Last lap board is out. Cian Bernard leads the way by nearly 0.8 of a second as Tom Reed has closed the gap by over 1.5 tenths. Oliver Warner further 0.8 back in third place. Denny Babacek, Albie Lapper, both, well, the latter two, both respectively set their personal best lap times in this race. There's one driver running very, very wide, coming out of Uncle Tyrone's banking up the hill towards the Litchfield Bridge. The leaders now making their way through into the second hairpin, and then the run down to the Fullerton S's. Cian Bernard has done absolutely exactly what he needed to. Made sure he got to the front and hasn't really looked back until just about then. Looked to see where Tom Reed was and wasn't too far behind him coming out of the Fullerton S's. Through the Mike Wilson complex go our leaders for the final time, as out of the final corner it's going to be the 1-8-2 of the UK's Cian Bernard on the zip cart that wins heat number 4 here in Minimax Groups B versus D by just over 0.4 of a second ahead of Tom Reed. Oliver Warner in third, Denny Babacek fourth, Albie Lapper, great job by him to finish in P5, having started on the inside of row 5 itself. Isaac Barker, Sebastian Lesch, Ryan Gandor, Oliver Meek and Christian Sayerson round out the top 10. Isabella Stansmore Wilson has been close, but not quite close enough. She's been there or thereabouts. She was one position away outside of the top 10 in 11th head of Edward Haynes, Riley Morrow and Miko Schreers, with unfortunately Joshua Griffin retiring on lap 4.